Welcome to today's presentation on consumer fraud trends. Just a little bit about me. My name is Dave Oldenburg. I joined Bank First as our fraud officer back in September of 2020. And I have about 21 years of banking experience, and 18 years of that were spent investigating financial crimes and related security matters. I'm also a member of various financial crimes committees, such as our Wisconsin Association of Fraud Investigators and our Financial Crimes Investigators of Greater Madison. I also serve on our Financial Crimes Committee for the Wisconsin Bankers Association. To start off our presentation today, I just wanted to take a few categories and discuss them as kind of an overview. And there's some hot topics that we have right now, and we just wanted to share some of that information with you. And starting off, we're going to talk a little bit about our peer-to-peer payment risks, such as Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, those types of products. Additionally, we'll be covering the spoofed numbers and robocalls that really have become problematic. I know I get a ton of robocalls on my cell phone and my landline as well, and I'm sure you do as well. We're also going to talk just a little bit about some of the evolution of some of the fake scams, fake check scams that we see as well. I know we covered a little bit about that previously last year, but there's some trends that are out there that I wanted to touch base on as well. We're also going to provide you some useful resources, talk a little bit about protecting your information as well, and bottom line, how to avoid being a victim of fraud. Peer-to-peer payments, if you're not familiar with what these are, is basically what a peer-to-peer payment platform is. It's a convenient way for customers to send money from their checking account. Unfortunately, scammers use it to victimize others. Because money can be transferred so quickly to anyone with a bank account, these P2P platforms are really becoming a preferred method for scammers to receive money. That's why customers really need to be careful when sending money. It's a fantastic product to have, but you want to be cautious of some of the signs that you could be victimized as part of a fraud. P2P payment services are really used by scammers that start with bogus online classified ads for merchandise or tickets to concerts and sporting events. They're also becoming increasingly popular for puppy scam methods. Where I don't know if you've heard this before, but they're basically an online advertisement for the purchase of a puppy, and they convince victims to send money by one of these P2P platform systems for various reasons. And they'll reach out several times for the purchase of the puppy, related fees, licensing, shipping, and so forth. And we see this fairly often around the holidays, around Christmas, and then again on Valentine's. We also see these as a common payment method for fake check scams, romance scams, which victims can lose hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars in the cases that we've seen. Many users don't understand that there really is a lack of fraud protection if they voluntarily send a payment through one of these P2P platforms. Zelle is a product that we actually carry through our online banking system. So Zelle, as well as other payment-to-payment products, are not the way to shop online. It's very important that users understand this. They're designed to be a quick and easy way to give money to someone that they know personally. For example, let's say you want to pay part of the restaurant bill at dinner, or send money to a close friend or family member. Zelle advises users not to send money to people that they do not know or trust. If a consumer doesn't know the person or isn't sure, they will get what they paid for. For example, items that are purchased online or via social media. We recommend that they don't use Zelle for these types of transactions, which are really considered high risk. It's important to understand that once the money is sent, it's gone. That's one of the advantages of P2P platforms, is the money gets sent instantaneously. There's benefits, of course, where the receiving person doesn't get any sensitive account information, which is a nice feature to have. But once it's gone, it's virtually impossible to recover should you realize that it's a scam. So just be careful on who you're sending money to. It's a great service to use, though, however. As a general rule of thumb, I really recommend that people just never use Zelle to purchase products at all. And only use Zelle with people that you know and trust. So treat it like cash. You know, double check the information also of the person that is receiving the money. So if you make a mistake in the phone number, which is generally the identifier for an account, that means it could be literally redirected to somebody else. You want to make sure that information is completely accurate before you end up sending money through these payment mechanisms. Because once that happens, the odds of getting your money back are very rare. And just changing gears a bit regarding the spoof numbers and robocalls, I wanted to share some statistics with everyone, because it's really become an absolute epidemic in terms of how many of these fraud calls are out there. You figure if you look at 2021's numbers right now, you're looking at roughly, there's about 258 million adults in the United States. Yet in these cases, a little over 59 million people have reported having lost money. That's nearly 23% of adults that are supplying this information, indicating that they've been scammed. So certainly this is an epidemic. Of the calls that I'm receiving on robocalls, I estimate about 95% of the calls that I'm receiving are just simply fraud. So that's something that we want to keep in mind when you get an unknown call, is always treat it with that degree of skepticism. Average money that's lost to scam calls, this is about $502. That's about what we're seeing now. Keep in mind, you know, some are more, some are less, some are a lot more, but typically we see this as the average range in the cases that we're experiencing on this type of consumer fraud. And obviously there's a lot of different fraud scenarios. I didn't want to cover each individual fraud scenario, but I wanted to really tackle a lot of how we're seeing these. Yes, you can get fraudulent emails and so forth, but in this particular presentation, I wanted to talk about the robocalls that we see that are really quite an epidemic, and that's usually how they're making first contact with victims. So really a startling number, in my opinion. Okay, I'm a bit bummed out over this statistic, but as you can see, the majority of scam victims happen to be male. So there's some misconceptions out there, and some of this data kind of puts things straight in terms of, you know, what is happening and who is likely to be targeted as a victim. Then you look at the next slide here, where it looks at, you know, you look at monthly spam received. I'm just startled by these numbers, and they divide this thing out by spam calls and spam texts. So you can see here in 2021, you're looking at combined spam calls and texts that people are receiving. 47.6 million of these things are coming out each month. It's absolutely astounding. So again, be very careful on unknown calls that are coming through, because chances are they're just simply going to be fraudulent. It's just going to be best to ignore them. A lot of people have a misconception that a lot of scam victims happen to be 65 years age and older. That's actually not true. Most victims are actually younger Americans between 35 and 44 years of age. Obviously, it can affect anyone. However, you know, a lot of people just simply think that this is something that affects people that are of that age bracket, that happen to be older, but statistically that's really not true. And just to sum up that section of the presentation, some of the preventative measures that you want to be doing is ignoring unknown calls and text messages. If you don't recognize the number, it's just best to let it go. Just don't even respond to it, because again, chances are, if you're getting something like that, it's going to be a fraud solicitation. Consider a service to assist in blocking scam calls. Depending on your carrier, there are services that are available that can cut down the amount of spoof numbers and robocalls dramatically, where they can sense that as being a spam call and just simply not even forward it on to your phone, which is a nice service to have. You can block those if something comes through on your phone. Get in the habit of saying, yep, I'm gonna block and I'm gonna delete that number. It's a junk number, and just, you know, get it out of there so that number doesn't repeat call you again. You can also make sure that you put your phone number in the National Do Not Call Registry. That cuts down on a lot of calls as well. However, scam callers have a tendency to call irregardless, but registering in the Do Not Call Registry is certainly a best practice as well. And lastly, limit who you give out your phone number to. You know, you see a lot of these contests and sweepstakes, and the more times you get your phone number out there, the more likely it is for a fraudster to obtain your number and start making fraudulent solicitations. Getting into a little bit into the fake check scams. Some of this information, like I said, was covered last year, but it really bears mentioning based on the number of cases that we've seen where customers have lost money to receiving fake check scams and ultimately sending money to a fraudster. Unbeknownst to the victim, the check is fake. So it simply gets returned by the financial institution and overdrawing a customer's account. So we do see those things on, you know, the car wrap advertisement emails. I'm seeing a lot of robocalls on these. Advertise your car. We're getting those things. Work from home scams, that continues to trend upward, where there's a solicitation for a job in which you can work remotely, and they go ahead and solicit that as well, and pay you through a check, and then they have instructions to basically deposit that check and have you send money back to the scammer before you realize that that check is fake. Secret shopper scams are certainly out there in full force. Personal loans solicitations that we're seeing, items listed for sale on social media. That's, you know, kind of a hot and heavy type thing that we continue to see as well. Or online dating friends that suddenly need help, and they're convincing victims to accept checks so they can go ahead and forward money over to them as well. So bottom line on these is, if somebody sends you a check and asks you to send money back, in all cases, it's a scam. So you want to be aware of it, and you don't want to fall victim to those types of situations. So we talked a little bit about, you know, how that fake check scams works, but some of the highlights to that is the typical dollar ranges that we're seeing. And again, this could be more money. We've seen cases for sizably more, but overall, we got kind of a sweet spot range that we're seeing these checks come into for victim consumers, and that's ranging between $1,200 and $4,900. So just something that we've noted on cases that we've seen. So Again, be very careful. If somebody is sending you something like this, and then the instructions to follow are to send them money, again, it's always going to be a scam. And it just bears mentioning because we're seeing so many of these things come forward as cases in which we're dealing with these. So we just want to warn consumers that to be very careful with these types of things. And with the fake check scams, it does tie into the payment-to-payment platforms like Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, or Bitcoin type transfers, where that's really becoming the preferred method for fraudsters to obtain that cash very easily once that check is deposited into your account. So what happens, of course, is it leaves the account holder with that negative balance to deal with that they're ultimately responsible for. And the trends that we're seeing on these is we are also seeing a big sizable uptick of more job postings that are posted via LinkedIn. I'm personally on LinkedIn and I see many of these fraudulent solicitations, work from home scams and so forth, where they're typically using a fake or hijacked profile. This can often be spotted because the job poster's occupation oftentimes just has nothing to do with the advertised job role. So, a lot of people think that everything that's posted from a job perspective on LinkedIn is going to be legitimate. Unfortunately, like any other social media type of site, there are opportunities for fraudsters to get in and make these solicitations as well. So you want to be very careful, regardless of what site it's offered on when you're looking at jobs. And with this, I call this kind of the three nevers, is just don't become a victim and never provide your personal information, such as your social security number, account information, online banking information. Never provide that out to anyone. It's going to result in some kind of problem. Never deposit a check from anyone that you are not truly familiar with. Never withdraw funds and send money after receiving an unknown check. So practice these things, don't become a victim. Again, there's quite a bit of cases that are out there, so it's just something that we really want people to be aware of. And of course, if you're unsure if the check is real, we'd be happy to help you with that. So stop by your local branch office for assistance, and we can take a look at that for you. And we're here for you. So contact your bank if you suspect that you have a fraud that's occurred. And obviously circumstances can vary, but we do have something called our fraud squad that provides our bank staff resources for our branches to assist customers. So we will take a look at that case individually and determine what's going to be best to protect our customers. So here's some examples that are included here is it could be changing login credentials or passwords or pins for your account. We also offer a passcode on bank accounts that you can put in your own personal password. So if anybody calls asking for account information, they will go by your passcode, your personally, created passcode in order to identify you as a customer. It's a great way to add an additional layer of security and protection to your accounts. There may be cases where we close and reopen an account depending on what's been affected. Or if we suspect that there could be potential identity theft in the future, we will suggest contacting the credit bureaus as well, or contacting the Federal Trade Commission, or contacting your local police department. So we're going to look at those things and kind of guide you through the process if you do become a victim, or if you believe that you may have given out information to a fraudster as steps to protect yourself. Depending on the nature of the fraud, you do have an option of placing a fraud alert with one of the credit bureaus. What's nice about how the consumer laws work is it makes it easier for somebody who believes that they're a victim of identity theft to place a fraud alert. And what you really have to do is just contact just one of the three credit bureaus. If you contact one, and then they are obligated to go ahead and share that information with the remaining credit bureaus as well. So if somebody attempts to obtain credit in your name, it's going to be a lot harder for a fraudster to be able to do that. It's kind of a speed bump with a fraud alert, is it's going to indicate on your credit report that the consumer has reported fraud. So that's going to alert the institution to go through additional steps to make sure that that person is positively identified before they move forward with issuing credit in the name of that person. So it's a nice thing to have, and it makes it harder for fraudsters to secure credit in your name. Some additional resources is, Federal Trade Commission has that dedicated website called identitytheft.com. It's a nice little packet where you can not only report identity theft, but it gives you a step-by-step type of situation in terms of, how do you recover from this? What steps can you take? What action steps can you take as well once you've been a victim of identity theft? So the Federal Trade Commission has a lot of good information that's out there. So I do encourage you to visit identitytheft.gov for that information. And of course, when you're dealing with fraud situations, we have various products that are available to consumers that you can kind of keep tab on your own accounts. Whether you're looking at setting up certain alerts through online banking, or you want to pay more attention to activity on your debit card. Or mobile banking alerts in general that you can set up where you can immediately be alerted should something go wrong on your account. Those are all customizable, and if you're looking for more information on that or a demo of these products, stop in to one of our offices and we'd be happy to assist you on that. But there's a lot of things that are out there that are available to consumers that we offer as an institution to help protect your account. So I encourage you to take a look at that and see what's going to work best for you. These are some of the steps, obviously, for protecting your information. Some of it sounds fairly rudimentary, but there's some other things in here that you may not be doing, but we encourage you to do. In general terms, just don't share your information with anyone else. I mean, certainly that's a good best practice, because the more information that a fraudster collectively gathers, the more they can target you. You look at shredding sensitive information of papers that you might be having, laying around your house, things that add up over time. Make sure that that information is properly disposed of and shredded. Mail theft, of course, is becoming more and more common, so you want to keep an eye out for anything that might be missing. And if that's potentially a problem, you can report that as well. Online banking, we talked about that briefly on some of the services that we have that not only can you monitor your accounts, but other services that you can utilize to protect yourself. And then credit report monitoring. Protecting your computer and protecting your mobile device is really important right now. A lot of victims fall victim where they are coerced into providing online banking information. So you want to make sure that that password information is protected, but you're also protecting your computer. Making sure that you have adequate antivirus software that's available on your computer. Strong passwords as well, phrase passwords, mixture of symbols, things that are going to be very, very difficult for a fraudster to crack. Once they have a password, chances are they got the keys to the house, so to speak. So really important that that password information be strong and secure. So bottom line is we want to keep that personal information personal. We don't want to share that with other people. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the shred events that we have at Bank First. It's just a great opportunity to get rid of this old information that's sitting around, sensitive documentation, anything that could potentially be used by a fraudster. And we really have a large turnout at our locations each time we host these, and it's free for consumers. And it's hosted at many of our locations. And we just ask that customers bring in non-perishable food donations to help out our local food pantries as well as part of that process. So it's kind of a win-win situation for everyone. And if you visit the services menu on our website, that'll give you some information to find the nearest event or the event nearest you. So take advantage of that service, gives you a great opportunity to get rid of that old information. Thank you for joining us. And of course, if you have any questions, please reach out to your local Bank First office.